Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the last edition of 2020 of #AskRobco. Super excited for our guest today, Rob Pickering from ActionCOACH. He is super passionate about everything he does coaching, events, workshops, and he's going to share with you all of his best knowledge, his insight, his path, his journey, what's brought him here today, what's happening in his world in December 2020, and how he's going to be changing the world in 2021. For all of the regulars on the show, you know how it works. On the right-hand side, you type in your questions. We will give you the answers, and then we will go from there. Rob, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob. It's good talking to another Rob. I won't forget your name.
Exactly, nice and easy. And we go straight into things, Rob. We give you the platform, we give you the floor. You tell us your journey, your life, your backdrop, where you come from, what your career has gone into, how it got there, where you are today, and where you're heading to. So the floor is yours, Rob, and share with us your story and your journey.
Great, thanks. So what an opportunity. I don't normally do this. I'm usually the person interviewing others because it's really all about everyone else. It's about our clients, it's about how we can help other people. And so I'll start at the end with what I do now, which is really working with predominantly business owners, but ultimately anyone who wants to achieve more, be more, have more in their lives. And it really is the being is what brings what you get. And so I started out, funnily enough, doing computer studies at school. Now, I should set the scene because when I was at school, there were no computers in school. I mean, like, not one. And so doing computer studies at school was writing things out on little cards, send it off to the local university. They'd have some ladies sit and type them in and make punched cards and feed them into a computer. So it's not quite like it was like it is today. But they did eventually let us loose on real computers, and I got into computer programming and went through studies at school and sixth form college, and went off to university thinking, yay, degree in computer science. And I arrived there, and there were 84 people doing computer science at that uni on that year, and 2 of us had ever touched a computer or done any programming before, and I'd had 4 years of it. So you can imagine how bored I was. So I lasted a whole year, drank as much as I could. Obviously, that's what you go to university for. I didn't do much of the work. My lecturers were pretty appalled with me because they were all saying, you're capable of so much more. Story of my life. And so I left at the end of a year and told my parents, can you imagine how that went? I said, I've decided not going back. And they said, oh, okay. And that was the discussion, like, wow, freedom. And I got a job pretty quickly doing software for schools. And after 10 days, the boss called me into his office. And I thought, oh, it's been good while it lasted. And he said, I've noticed all the other guys keep coming to you and asking questions. And so you're now their manager. And I said, what does that mean? Bearing in mind, I'm nearly 19. And he said, oh, I see, like that, is it? He said, all right, it'll be about a 30% pay increase. And that's probably the last time in my life when I just shut up and accepted the good thing and didn't question it. And I went on from there to do other things, joined a small software house. It brought me down south because I'm from near Middlesbrough, as I was saying, not too near. So out in the wild and woolly north, and now I'm in the very civilized south, but wishing I was in the north, except during COVID, obviously, although it's not much different here now. So having done all that computer programming, my next challenge was learning to talk to normal people. And I think I've just about mastered it now, because in computer speak, you basically don't talk a lot. You look at screens, and if you want to talk to the guy next to you, then you type a message on. It's always interesting at home now. I'll sit there, my wife next to me on the sofa, and we'll message each other. But that's just modern life, isn't it? So while I was at a company doing IT distribution, another step on, because I've got to say, this is job or vocation number 14, so I'm not going to give you a blow by blow on each of them. But I had this kind of turning point where I sat in the first real management training I'd had. So I was now 28, so really, really ancient in management terms. And having had 10 years of managing people, I had my first management training. And they taught me all kinds of things, which was basically all the ways in which I was an absolutely crap manager, but never knew. Or maybe they told me half of the ways in which I was. But the interesting thing I found sitting there on the beginning of day 2, and I can picture it now, there was a guy called Nick Bate. He's written quite a lot of books, so some people will have come across him. Absolutely brilliant guy, very straight-faced, very, very knowledgeable. And while he was standing there at his flip chart, I thought, do you know what? I would rather be standing there teaching what you're teaching than being in IT. But it took me about another 15 years or so to transition, because one of the things about working in IT is, generally speaking, you're heavily overpaid. Certainly I was. Hope none of my old bosses are watching. And it's really difficult as you're going along in a career to go, okay, I got to get across this chasm of knowledge. I'm very knowledgeable here, and I need to be knowledgeable over there. And how the heck do I get across without going plummet and earning 10K a year or whatever while I learn? And so I really was practicing and learning a lot of the stuff across all of the years that I was in the various businesses, and went through, started a few businesses, ran businesses for other people. And it all really was just one apprenticeship after another of learning things in business, and working internationally, and working in sales, working in marketing, working in product development, in all these different areas, whilst also really focusing on management of people. And most of the time what I kept learning is all the errors I was making in understanding people, because really it's, in any business, it is very much about dealing with human beings, and we're pretty complex. And I keep looking for the manual, but I haven't found it yet. But maybe I could write one soon. So I ended up in a position doing a turnaround. I was running an Apple reseller called Computer Warehouse, just in case anyone ever heard of them. I didn't own it, but it was a 12-month project to turn it around to profit again and or sell it. We did both. And I used that 12 months to get ready for, right, I'm going to go out management consulting.
How old are you now?
So by then I would be 45. Okay. So it took a while.
Yep.
57 now. So that was 12 years ago.
Looking good for it, Rob.
Yeah. 2 years on, thank you very much. 2 years on, someone said to me, do you offer business coaching? And I uttered those immortal words, what's that? Never heard of business coaching. About, well, probably more like 11 years ago. And the guy that was asking me said that I'd known him across a few businesses, and I really wanted to do consulting for him. And he said he can't stand consultants. They come in, they do work for you, and they go out again and take all the knowledge with them, so that you have to ask them back again. And I thought, well, yeah, that's why I do it, isn't it? But he didn't like consultants, and he phoned me phoned me up one day and said, do you offer business coaching? I went, what's that? And he said, well, it's kind of like in sports coaching. He said, I'm in the local squash league, and I just finished a squash coaching session, and we were in the changing rooms, and my squash coach said to me, how's that little business as yours coming on? And he said, well, not so much the little, we're up to 2 million quid now after 7 years, which is pretty good going by most standards. And he said, oh, well, you have yourself a golf coach, you've got a squash coach. I don't understand why you wouldn't have a business coach. If you're serious about growing your business, you'd have a coach. He said, well, if only there were such things. I said, there were. Have a look at this company called ActionCOACH. And that was from a squash coach. So what he was doing, I don't know. And so he's talking to me, and I'm going, ActionCOACH, never heard of it. Let's have a look. Let me have a look, actioncoach.com. Oh my God, it looks horribly American. And unfortunately, that is still the impression I get in looking on the American site, and quite a lot of it, that it tends to look very kind of, high-end, glamorous and whatever. And we do work with high-end companies, but we work with one-man bands and everyone as well. And the thing I learned about it is I transitioned some of my clients, plus that guy, Mike. He just sold his business a few months back after 10 years working with me. He started out, so it was 2 million there when we were talking. We got him to 5 million in the first 6 months or so. At the end of the first year, he was at 12 million. He ended up in the fast track, Sunday Times or whichever it is, did really well. And in early stages of growth, it's relatively easy to get 30% to 50% year-on-year growth, but after a few years, that's pretty hard to keep that up. But he was in it for a record either 4 or 5 times in a row. So he built. Yeah, well, he's the big winner. I love watching it. He's the one who's done best out of it. But it's been great working with him on that company, a company called academia.co.uk. So they mainly sell IT stuff into schools. I don't have any connection. There's no win for me these days in pushing him. It's just a really good company. But it's really typical of what we do in working with business owners, that it is this coaching metaphor where everyone listening will know what it's like, that you can see exactly what everyone else around you is doing wrong. You can see how they present incorrectly. You can see how they say things incorrectly. You can see how they think you should plan this and you should have done that, and why don't you do that? But as soon as you go and look in the mirror, everything just looks fine. And so it's really, really difficult to get that third party perspective without having the third party. And the real difficulty then of being a third party is to be someone who highlights to someone the things that they really don't want to be told. Can be a bit difficult. And it's one of the things you've got to learn as a coach, is how to tell someone what they need to hear and probably don't want to hear. And that's basically my everyday life. So there's a lot of different forms of coaching around. The way I distinguish business coaching is that it has the business orientation. So in order to do it, it's not just asking people questions. You've got to know, and you've got to understand a pretty wide range of disciplines, because you've no idea what aspect the client's going to work on. And over a period of time, they're going to work on every single thing. So we have to get good at helping them with recruitment, with managing the team, motivating the team, in doing those wonderful annual appraisals that are so motivating to staff, in looking at the finances and the cash flow and the profit and the margins, in looking at their future strategy. So it's really all of those things, but it's not a step-by-step, we start here and we go there and there and there. It's not a cookie-cutter kind of model. There's a lot of different things like a framework, but every business is different, every business owner is different. And I can speak for myself as a business owner. I don't want someone coming along and telling me how to run my business or what to do. That's why I run my own business. And that's pretty much the entrepreneurial thing, that every entrepreneur knows best, or we just think we do. And so being on the outside of that and guiding, it's really a case of asking questions. And a question I would ask quite commonly, and that I'd invite the audience to ask of themselves, would be, let's say, what is the biggest thing that you're avoiding taking action on, which if you took action on it would make a big difference in your life or in your business, in your relationships, wherever it may be? Because often we do know the things that we're avoiding, the things we're putting off, the things we don't like. If there's something, particularly in business, that someone doesn't like, then what they do is they avoid it. And when they avoid it, they don't get any better. They actually get worse. And then because they're worse, they enjoy it even less, they avoid it even more. And you can see the vicious circle, the downward spiral that occurs. So I'm often sitting with a business owner and saying, which aspects of the business do you enjoy? Because I'm thinking, okay, that rules those out. And whichever ones they're not going to mention, I can then go on to. So you didn't mention finance. And I go, oh yeah, don't mention finance. And that's when someone says don't ask or don't mention, that's when you know that you're on the right hot button. So there is the option, if the business is big enough, to say, and I don't want to know about that, I'll employ someone. But if, for example, you don't like marketing, or you don't see the value in marketing, well, more fool you. You need to get someone in who's good at marketing. But I've seen businesses where they bring in a marketing person. If the owner doesn't believe in marketing, it's a hell of a job for a marketing director working for a company that doesn't really believe in marketing. So it's really important the business owner knows and understands the value of every discipline within the business. And from a startup point of view, I'd often draw up for a startup, I'd draw up an organization chart on the flip chart and say, okay, so here's you as the owner, and then you employ a managing director, or that's you. And then you've got all of these other jobs. So you've got the sales director, that'll be you. You've got the marketing director, looks like that'll be you. You got the finance director, that'll be you, and so on, operations, HR, whatever. And people starting a business often miss this point, that the day you start a business, you are all of those different jobs. You're wearing all of those hats. And I'd invite people to look at that and first of all understand which of those areas are they good at, and are they going to go slowly enough that they need to be a jack of all of those trades, or are they going to move quickly enough that they can appoint people into those different disciplines? Because one way or another, it's got to be done. And you can see a business that may be 80% well performing, but any one of those other areas that is not performing, that holds back the whole lot. You can be absolutely brilliant at sales and focusing on sales, but if your marketing sucks or you don't do any, that is absolutely holding the business back. Now, people are often blind to that. If you the old phrase that and a lot of people will have heard is, he who is good with a hammer treats everything like it's a nail, right? So people who are really good at sales, when they're looking for how to grow the business, guess what they look at? Sales. People who are good at marketing, they look at marketing and they don't like the sales, so they try and do everything on sales without ever talking to anyone. People who are technicians, so the IT people, accountants, all these kind of things, how do they grow the business? Well, they just do what they do really well. If we build a fantastic piece of software, people will just buy it. We won't worry about that dirty sales and marketing stuff. But equally, if it's sales-led, they don't particularly like the engineering side of it. So part of the coaching idea is to bring these things into focus, to get people discussing it, to get them to go and look in the mirror and say, what actually are you avoiding? What do you need to learn? What do you need to get good at? Does that make sense?
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, love that, and it makes a lot of sense. Got a lot of questions around that. I've just been looking at the website. Doesn't look too American to me. It looks pretty good. It's not
Well, I
crazy.
was going back 10 years ago.
All right, it's not, it's not crazily salesy. It's very straight to the point. It's very clear and precise. So I like it. Right. So let's go deeper into you, Rob, because you've given us a lot here. We're going to start with the questions. And the reason why we're going to start with the questions, because I probably do about 100 interviews a year, okay? And there are very few special people in the world that I've come across that have this automatic questioning machine in their brain, okay? And it's very, very, very clear that that's what you have, okay?
Yeah.
And that's how you behave. Now, let me tell you something. 99.9% of the world don't behave like that, okay? And because they don't behave like that, they're not going to achieve the special things that you achieve because they're not asking the questions. Not only that, the person that is really special like you that does ask the questions doesn't realize as well as possibly they should. I mean, this isn't at you, I'm just explaining from my experience with people, is they don't realize how good they are at asking the question, and they don't realize that everyone else doesn't ask the question. And so when someone doesn't ask the question, they think, oh, why didn't you ask the question? It's the most obvious thing in the world. I mean, why wouldn't you? And so special people have that pattern recognition. Question, I don't understand. Why? I don't understand. Question, I don't understand. And all they're asking is the most simple things in the world so that their brain understands. And when their brain understands, like a computer, it goes on to the next path and it can go on from there and there and there and there and there. So without question, you fall into that category. I don't know you, I've never spoken to you, don't know anything about your life apart from 10 minutes you've given. But what's very clear is that you've got that talent or that ingredient that allows you to perform in a very, very special way, and that just puts you somewhere else. So congratulations for that. And it's a wonderful thing to have. At what stage did you realize what I've just told you? Have you known it throughout your whole life? Do you still not know it, or do you understand to a certain degree?
No, I get it because, but I've only got it within ActionCOACH. I've got 250 colleagues in the UK that are also, you know, really, really good, but vary on the questioning, and they tell me I'm great at asking questions. I'm going, but surely that's what you do. How could you not? Isn't that what coaching is? We're not here to tell anyone anything. We're here to ask the right questions and get them to come up with their own answers on the whole, where they can. So yeah, I'm aware of that now. I'm trying to drag a book out of myself. So on that very topic.
It's so obvious to someone like me that meets so many people, and when I meet the people that ask the questions, they behave in such a different way that they stand out. And so it's just clear pattern recognition. You know, it's to me, it's very clear. Let's go back to another moment. Okay, so let's go back to your conversation with your parents. So just so that you know, and I share this with my audience the whole time, I also didn't complete my studies. I got offered an internship in a property company in the summer of my A-levels, and they offered me a job, and I went home and told my parents. I said, not going back. And after going a little crazy, my mum turns around and says, it's your life, do what you want. Conversation end. So talk us through a bit more detail of the conversation.
Do you know, there isn't any more detail. I think I recounted the entire conversation to you. It just was never even mentioned. They just left me to get on and supported me. There was never any snidey remarks or told you so or anything else at all. And that was quite unexpected. I don't know what I expected. Well, I expected criticism and persuasion to change my mind. But no, they were just fully supportive. So, and I've tried to play that forward as well with my own kids. I've got 3 kids, and the youngest, Tom, he was actually working for a client of mine and messaged me at 10 o'clock one evening saying, can you read this job contract? I want to leave my job in the morning. This is with one of my clients. Imagine expecting the discussion. And he wanted to move to Malta, age 22, and go and work for an esports company. So of course he played lots of games in his spare time, but we always knew that was just a waste of his time, and then he should get a proper job. I'm old enough to be able to say get a proper job. That's what parents say, isn't it? But he's now highly successful in that whole field. He's back in the UK, but he works as a commentator and a community manager and all these things. But we had this moment where I phoned my wife and I said, okay, we could be, I won't use the actual language, but we could be the typical difficult parents now and tell him all the mistakes you can make, whatever, or we can just say, well done, and do whatever the hell it takes to support him. And if it does all go wrong, just say, well done for trying, and then help him sort it all out. And I think there are key moments in life where you know, anyone can make that decision to go that way or that way. And I'm glad we made that decision because he's still talking to us and he might not have been otherwise.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I do think it's really, sorry to interrupt, it's really important to understand how important those details are. So I look back on my conversation with my parents, and I consider myself fortunate that they let me do what I wanted to do. And I don't have any regret, nor do I begrudge them or have any sentiment, negative sentiment against them for them stopping me going down the journey that I wanted to go down to live out my life. You were very fortunate, and I don't know whether you've reflected on that, to have that support and freedom to have made that decision. And for sure, subconsciously or consciously, that came into your mind with your son to allow you to make that decision. And it's very, very powerful. It's very important moments in your life, in your son's life, in being a perfect parent, or trying to be.
I wouldn't claim that.
It, you know, these small details, believe it or not, change lives. And to be a child and living out your parents' life instead of your own life is just misery. And it's something that you wouldn't want to put on anyone. And you're a very lucky, positive example of someone that hasn't gone down that path and succeeded because of it. Got loads of questions, and we're probably going to run
Go
over
for it.
by about 5 or 10 minutes. So I hope, are you okay for that?
Yeah, that's
Otherwise, we're
fine.
not going to get through all the questions. Okay, so the next point, you mentioned a reoccurring thing of being capable of much more. Okay, now, are you being told that? Are you thinking that? A combination of both? And before I get the answer on that, to me, even if it's just you, or even if it's a combination of both, it's basically the message that you were, historical context, not secure enough about your own capabilities or abilities. You didn't believe in yourself as much as you possibly could, or now do, or do a bit more, being super humble. And because of that, you undervalued your roles and positions until maybe further down your career, you were able to self-reflect and look back and say, well, actually, maybe I'm not so bad after all.
Yeah, I was absolutely terrible at school. I went to secondary school pretty much unable to write. I could read, but I couldn't really write. You wouldn't be able to read what it was, and it would take me an hour to write a page. Um, and so school was just hellish for me. It was only really by the time I was reaching 15, 16 that I started enjoying it. Sixth form college I absolutely loved. University I didn't really care about, but I really came at my own after that. But all through my life I've had people, like at the sixth form college, I was mentioning how rare computers were. We had one computer at the sixth form college, and this one teacher who wasn't even one of my teachers, but he would ask me for help in what he had to do. And every Friday night, unbeknownst to college, he would sign out the computer and he'd give it and me a lift to my house, drop it off. He'd go off. I'd set it up and use it all weekend. He would then come around the Monday morning, help me load this big thing, these aren't small, into his car. We'd load it all back into the sixth form after. So I got that lucky break, and I always said to him, why do you go to all of this effort? And he would just say things like, well, you know, you've got the capability, you know, I can see you've got the interest and everything. I just want to support you in it. And so, you know, he's one of a number of people throughout my life and career that I'm, you know, forever grateful to, of seeing whatever that was that they saw in me. And so, yet again, I play that forward and pay it forward in seeing that opportunity with other people. I always say, if someone's willing to ask me for some help and they're willing to do the work, I'll bend over backwards to help them. It's not about what money they're going to pay me. It's just about believing in people. And it's the belief from others, I think, makes a big change. That I always say to managers or business owners that one of the best ways they can help bring on their team members or your kids as well is to demonstrate that you believe in them, because inevitably it ends up being greater belief than they have in themselves. Very few people have as great a belief in themselves as others around them can see. So very perceptively to pick up on that. And I would say that, you know, after all of these years, I still have a lot of people around me that know me very well saying, you know, you should aim higher, you should be charging more, you don't charge enough, you shouldn't do those things for free. But I do, because I enjoy that. You know, I have a sign on my wall that one of my colleagues gave to me as a saying from Gandhi of be the change you wish to see in the world. And it's all about being proactive, taking ownership, responsibility, and being accountable, to not be blaming others and other things, but to say, if you want to see something different, then start by doing that yourself. So you got a lot of questions, so I'll let you move on
Love
another
it.
one.
No, love it. Really, really great analogy. Love that. Take responsibility. Don't blame others, for sure. Okay, let's try and quick fire about half a dozen here. Action Coach, is it a franchise business model?
It is, yep. I never went looking for a franchise. There's a lot of reasons why I don't like franchises, but you know, I've described how I came across it, and I found it was a franchise. And all I intended to do was find out how did this business coach thing work, learn what I could, pinch the good ideas, and bring that into my consulting business. But I found that it was just such a great organization with great values that I wanted to become part of it. And now, you know, if I do say so myself, I'm a significant part. I train a lot of the other coaches. I put a lot of training, a lot of knowledge out into the marketplace and everywhere because I love doing that and making a difference.
Brilliant. Okay, next question. Though every business is different, what is the most common piece of advice that you give to business owners to help them improve?
Start with the end in mind, phrase from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because a lot of people think there's no point having a plan because things change. I would say because things change, you need to have a plan. It's easier to adapt a plan than to have no plan and try and adapt what. So knowing where it is you want to get to. So I would encourage everyone to think, you know, where would you like to be in 5 years? I know it's a classic interview question, but it's a very valuable question to ask. And to think in your life, where do you want to be? What do you want that to look like? And if you run a business or you have a job, what do you want that to be look like? What do you want it to look like, rather? And then that's all very well, but what you then need to do is say, what are the steps I need to take to get there? And then after that, the bravest thing, ask for help. Because so many people don't ask for help. And I think it's my reflection on this is that it's from our education system. That in our education system, we are taught and have it drummed into us that it's not the winning that counts, it's the taking part, and it's better to do poor work yourself than to cheat and get someone else to help. And kids have this drummed into them right the way through education, and then they come into the workplace, and I'll be looking going, we have got a way of doing this. You don't have to reinvent everything. You don't have to work it out for yourself. And everyone comes into the workplace with the wrong kind of mentality. And then people don't like to ask for help. How crazy is that? It's a problem the world over that people suffer in silence, or they go around being mediocre in silence. There's tons of people around who will help if you ask. Not many people are able to help if you don't ask. So work out where you want to get to, work out some of the steps that will get you there, and then cast out to your network, or even just straight onto social media and say, I want to achieve this. Can anyone give me any help? And you'll be amazed at how many people will.
Great. Next question. Rob, what drives you in the business that you're in at the moment? So what gets you up in the morning, super excited? What's your driver? What's your, your purpose and meaning in doing what you do?
It's a combination of things, but I think what gives me the most satisfaction is seeing people being the best they can be, really in the journey on constantly seeing them get better. I remember I was on Zoom with one of my colleagues the other night, and I said to him at the end, you know, you are a different person than I saw a year ago, because he's developed and changed, and it's the self-confidence I can see in him as well. And so
Yeah.
seeing most people who run businesses, they have what's known as imposter syndrome. A lot of people in the business will know this term, but a lot of other people won't have heard the term. And the way imposter syndrome looks is, I'll work with a business owner who's been in business, let's say 10 or 20 years, and I'll be talking to them, and they'll tell me things and so on. Then as they get to know me, about 2 weeks in, they'll say, Rob, I got to tell you something. Like, what? Say, I've never actually had any training to run a business. They go, right. Say, I just make this up every day as I go along. I don't actually have a clue what I'm doing. I have no idea how I got the business to work as it is. But one of these days, someone will find out. And the thing is, that's like 99% of people running a business. They're just waiting for that day they're going to get found out, and it'll never come. because what I see is that's absolutely normal. You know, when was anyone at school and told how to manage people and how to communicate properly? And so it's very normal. So really it's helping people to get that realization that they are good, that they can be good, and they are getting better, and to knock down those barriers that are holding them back. To see someone reach that state of belief where their thought is I can, as opposed to their thought is I can't and never could. You know, the old if you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. I want people to think they can, and then they know that and they do. And that's what gives me the greatest satisfaction.
Love that. Thanks, Rob. Next question. What is your advice for a recent graduate who's very inquisitive and self-reflective? I've been doing job applications for weeks, and I've even started some volunteering positions on the side to fill in my gaps. However, I've still not got any job, and it seems like I'm doing everything that I should do, but it's not working. Is there something that I'm actually not doing? Should I just wait and hope?
Okay, so without knowing the exact situation, it's going to be very general advice. But one thing I'd say is reach out to business owners. And by that, I don't mean apply for a job. I mean actually ask for help. If you were to go on LinkedIn and you say what you've just said in that question, people will pile in there and offer to help you or offer you a job. But when all you do is apply for jobs, you're just one of the many, you know, sheeple applying for a job in the same old way. When I work with clients, when we do it, when we are advertising a job, we say, do not send your CV. Please write just a page or two of why you think this job would be great for you, not why you'd be great for the job. It's that way around. And 99% of the responses we get, guess what? They send us a CV, they don't send us a letter. And if they do send a letter, they say why they think they're good for the job. So they're not even answering the question that we asked. And we think, well, if that's what they like when they're applying for a job, what are they going to be like when they work for us? They don't listen to instructions or do anything. So you've got to stand out when you're applying for jobs. And I know this is really, really difficult. And anyone that's going through this over and over again, applying for jobs and not even getting a basic polite response back, this is soul destroying. So I totally get that you might think I'm really mean in saying this, but you have to stand out and you need to do something different. And you have to think of each job and then reach out for help to business owners, because so many successful business owners I meet are really, really happy to offer a bit of mentoring and support to someone else, and they'll tell you exactly what you need to do. And I include myself, if whoever that is, if they connect me on LinkedIn, I'll genuinely help. I've never ever had someone approach me for help and turn them away. I can say that quite genuinely.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, last question. What is the most peculiar business venture that you have helped through your coaching?
Equine artificial insemination.
Which is, in English?
With horses, artificial insemination, and I'm not going to explain that in any more detail. So horse breeding, yeah. And this guy contacted me. He emailed me at about 11 o'clock at night, saying, "I'm running a business. I'm stuck. I'm losing money. Is this the kind of thing you can help with?" He's like, "Well, I don't know what business we're running." So I wrote back and said, "Yeah, sure. Do you want to have a chat tomorrow?" And he wrote back saying, "Oh, I didn't actually expect anyone in business to respond at 11 o'clock at night." I'm like, "Well, why wouldn't I?" And we chatted the next day, and it's like, "So come on, what's your business?" And he said, "Well, equine artificial insemination. I don't suppose you know anything about it." I'm like, "No, I definitely don't, but it doesn't matter, because guess what? He needs to do sales, he needs to do marketing, he needs to recruit and train and motivate staff, he needs to have products and sell them, and he needs to set his pricing needs." And it's the same across every business. It's only the actual thing of the operations of the business that varies. Every plumber knows how to do plumbing, and they don't know how to do marketing and sales and recruit staff and whatever. Every electrician knows how to do that, and they don't know. So it's the same across all the businesses. But yeah, that was definitely the most unusual. But funnily enough, we worked together for probably a year and a half, and he decided then to close the business. It was the right thing. It was the wrong business for him. He just didn't love it. And I'm sure you won't mind me saying he's now working with me again, and he's got a business that he's going to achieve 10 million turnover in 5 years. He's just done 520% of turnover of his target in November. And the key thing that's changed there, that's the same guy running one business and running another business. This latter business, it's him. It suits him down to the ground. The other one, he just wasn't into it. So I know you got a bit more of an answer than you're asking for there, but yeah, we get plenty of unusual businesses.
Absolutely love it. We've taken so much of your time. We could talk for hours, Rob. You've been absolutely brilliant. If you can just share with us what impact you want to have in the world moving forward, where people can get hold of you, and what message you want to give to everyone this weekend to leave them either at home or going home if they're allowed out in a positive way.
Yeah, I think the key message, it's not something I've said here, but my key message would be think about and work on how you can enjoy every day. Because whether it's business, whether it's anything else, if you don't enjoy every day, what the hell is the point? So seriously, you know, I at the end of every day, I look at it and say, what have I enjoyed least? And what can I do to change that from tomorrow? Ideally to eradicate whatever it is I don't like. And what have I enjoyed most, and what can I do to get even more of that? And so I absolutely do wake up every day and look forward to coming to work. You know, you can bet your life I'm going to be working between Christmas and New Year because it isn't work. That helping people when it's that satisfying, there's no way that's work. It's a vocation. So I would say think about and work towards, even if you're in a career or a position where there's no way you can see out of it right now, there is a way. I guarantee there are more than one way, but it's not going to come and do it for you. You have to think, what is it you want? What do you enjoy? And then what are the first steps? And yet again, if you can see the steps and you don't know how, reach out for help. Lots of people in the world are more than happy to help. That'd be my message. In terms of where to connect me, contact me, or how to contact me, LinkedIn's always great. Our website is Reading, that's R-E-A-D-I-N-G, reading.actioncoach.co.uk, where there's a whole load of videos and stuff on there that people can go and help themselves with. You don't have to actually talk to me.
Brilliant. You've been a star, Rob. Thank you so much. Great words of wisdom, great stories, and obviously great questions from the audience again.
Yeah, that was great.
Want to wish everyone, including yourself, a great festive season, a good Christmas, a good Happy New Year. Be safe, be healthy, be well. Thank you, everyone, so much for everything you've done for #AskRobCo in 2020, for the 16,000 plus registrations, for all of your support across all the platforms. We wouldn't be here without you. We are only providing this platform to help you, to educate, to motivate and inspire, and leave you with some positivity and happiness on a Friday afternoon. We're now off for the next few weeks, so we will see you all again in 2021. Please stay healthy and happy and safe. Take care. Thanks for joining, and look after yourself.
Bye. Thank you.